Okay, I am never vacationing on Mario Kart World ever again. Look at these speeding tickets. This one's for drifting across the entirety of Peach Beach. Another one for allegedly street racing in Crown City. And all of a sudden, it's a crime to boost over the delicate ice in Starview Peak. I read the speed limit signs, so what gives? Hello racers, and welcome to the newest episode of Crystal Crown, the show that answers questions you never thought you had. Now, usually I like to mix up the games my videos are based on, and was considering skipping this title entirely since I had just found the spectator amounts of Mario Kart 8 just a few episodes ago. But with the Switch 2's launch bullet billing themselves to one of the fastest selling consoles of all time, you know this was a chance I could not pass up. So I picked up my own bundle on launch night and got looking around this massive world for questions to answer. And while driving down the highway in free roam, something caught my eye immediately. No viewers, that isn't a typo by a Lakitu with a desperate need for a stronger prescription. This highway safety sign is proudly boasting that the speed limit is infinity? An amusing and lighthearted nod to the fact that racers are going cross-country driving on this continent at blinding speeds. Whether it's being illuminated by stars, hopping into larger trucks for added horsepower, or just eating the best hamburger known to man. Moo, no! But you know what? I just can't let this speed limit slide. While it's true that the racers are moving at breakneck pace, the other people on the road seem like they're all adhering to a pretty standard, slower rate. Like, we're not getting any Mad Mario Bowser's Fury Road up in here, like an infinite speed limit would suggest. Instead, all the other non-racers seem like they aren't planning on burning rubber anytime soon. Like they're adhering to a secret, slower speed limit. And it got me thinking, if I was able to determine the speed of both the karts, as well as the regular cars, could I prove that this sign is lying to you? But before we set off on this knockout tour of correcting labels, how about you get a speed boost by clicking these 3 mushrooms? One for a like, one for a sub, and finally, the third is for clicking that bell icon. Thanks! So how do we possibly start this? Well, it's actually pretty easy. See, Mario Kart World has added a whole new set of achievements that unlock stickers to pimp out your ride with. And thankfully for us, some of these are tied to distance. So I decided that the first thing I was going to figure out is how fast Mario and friends are racing at top free roam speed. To do so, I started up a new save file and got to driving. The first 3 achievements are pretty simple. Sticker 1 is driving 5 kilometers, the second one is up to 10, meaning another 5-kilometer trek, and the third is doubling it from 10 kilometers to 20. So I hopped into free roam and marked down how long it took the kart to get each achievement at full speed, trying my best not to touch any of the speed boosts. I said trying my best. I found the last 2 time blocks to be effective, mostly because I was dumb for the first 5 and kept hitting the speed tiles. In our first hypothetical time trial, Mario crosses the first imaginary finish line, doing 5 kilometers in 2 minutes and 17 seconds. The second one, he does 10 kilometers in 4 minutes and 23 seconds. You can account for the slight difference in speed, mostly due to any turns they had to take between the 2 milestones. But this overall is a great starting point for us. Now we'll take both times since it's kilometers over seconds and transfer it to a standard for people who drive wrong, coming out to be 131.39 and 136.88 kilometers per hour. Now, in my dumb American brain, this sounded ludicrously fast, until a quick calculation made me realize we're dealing with some much more reasonable, about 82 to 85 miles per hour. Sorry, wrong racing game character. See, instead of Hatsune Miku and Steve Minecraft, we get surprise guests here like Coin Coffer, Conquador, and the Bee? Anyway, this averages out to a cool 83.35 miles per hour for the average kart speed. I mean, it's pretty fast if you don't have the frame of reference of a NASCAR or F1 event, whose speeds clock out at a high of 200 to 230 miles per hour. But they don't have to go through the added pressure of driving through a manufacturing factory now, do they? I like to see you millionaire race car drivers try and drift through an active volcano before you make fun of Shy Guy's performance. But now that we have our kart speed, it's time for us to figure out how fast the average non-racer is going. So, hopping into the game and trying to match the speed of the cars on the road didn't seem that fruitful. Either I'd accidentally brake check them, slowing their speeds down considerably, or they'd take off like I was some sort of menace on the road. Like, where would they even get that idea from? Eventually, I found that my best answer was a simple overtake. I recorded myself going at the top speeds in the kart, which we already know the speeds of, and used that to figure out how fast the car was going through relative speed. I mean, I keep finding myself doing math equations for video game questions. It's like bagging a blue shell in first place. I'm shooting myself in the foot by showing I haven't really done math in that long. But anyway, we see that Mario here overtakes the car in about half a second. I'm assuming for convenience that the car and the kart are similar sizes, and for the kart, I'm going with the assumption that it's about 155 centimeters in length, since that's about the middle of how large the average go-kart is. Okay, first we take both of their velocities and multiply it by the time we know that the overtake is going to happen within. Then we equal this to the length of the two cars combined, as Mario is going to be moving two cars in length forward in a relative distance. Simplifying the formula, we get this, where we can solve for it and get 31.5 meters per second, converted to a speed of 69.45 miles per hour. Hey, save the joke, this is a family-friendly game. Or 111.77 kilometers per hour. Finally, we can also double-check our work by plotting out these treks on a graph, using the distance and time as our x and y axis. Identifying where each car's position would be in a half a second later should give us the green flag. So now we know, the Mario Kart racers are going faster than the average car, but at a difference between 70 miles per hour to 83. Is this enough of a difference that would cause you to get in trouble with the Koopa Sheriff here? Well, maybe. See, I wanted to take this a step further, taking a few of the tracks that draw inspiration from real-world locations as my basis. How much of a fine would Luigi expect in his mailbox for not following the rules of the road? Turns out that mansion shouldn't scare you. It's the fine from all the excessive boosting that should. Now, I wanted to nail down two regions I felt could give me a good basis, which was Japan and the US. Based mostly around the maps of Cheep Cheep Falls and Mario Bros. Circuit, sharing a lot of geographic similarities to the two. The falls features these beautiful pagodas, trees, and general architecture that resemble historic Japan. And Mario's reddish rock layout and desert atmosphere felt like it had strong ties to Arizona, specifically places like the Wave and Grand Canyon. I actually have a whole other video idea about the climate of Mario Kart World and how crazy it would be in practice. So if you want to see that get made, comment to let me know. Now for Japan, one study I found actually mentioned that by going over the speed limit by 20 to 25 kilometers per hour, which is where our racers find themselves in, has the highest rate of people getting pulled over for speeding. It turns out that Japan uses a punishment system that is proportional to how much over the speed limit you are driving. At this amount, racers can expect to pay a fine of about 15k yen, which comes out to be around $103. But what about the diesel chucking Ford F-150 loving US of A, baby? Well, from my experience as a driver, the general protocol for when I grew up was that you could bend the rules of the speed limit a little bit, but anything higher than 10 miles per hour over, the police would start to take notice. For Arizona, I found a study that researched the average ticket price in every county. For those driving about 13 above the speed limit, they were subjected to an average fine of $215.85. Be glad we're using the average, because people in La Paz County are getting hit with $302 fines at this speed. Imagine that, not paying attention to the road and you're getting fined 67% of a Switch 2 payment? Sure, officer, let me just pull out my gold coin shell and we should have that money in no time. Now, on the same website, they do mention that you can enroll in one defensive driving school course, and it gets one single traffic charge dismissed from your record. These classes also cost money, and it's typically less than our $215 ticket. But our cast here isn't stopping at just one infraction, and this is where it gets interesting. See, Arizona has a couple of these extra add-ons that come with their speeding tickets, and I'm not talking Rose Gold Peach or a Mercedes tie-in. Say that you pass on your first freebie and decide not to take the class. If you accept the ticket, you'll also be getting 2 points onto your license. And unlike the points you receive at the end of each race, points on your license is certainly a bad thing, as if you get 8 to 17 points in 12 months, you receive a 3-month suspension from your license and mandatory traffic school. What's a little funny to me is that one of the sources calls this a traffic survival school. Arizona, if someone is speeding that often, the other drivers on the roads are the survivors. But back to those points. it had me thinking about how this relates back to Mario Kart. As you know, so far I've been dealing mostly in free roam. Wiggler is just out on a weekend drive, feeling the wind on his, flower, when 12 catches him just over the speed limit. But what about the races themselves? Now, obviously, the racers have permission to drive as fast and as recklessly as they want on the tracks, as they have for decades now. But what's unique about World is that after finishing the first track in the Grand Prix, 2/3 of the next couple of tracks are all this wacky racers style events where you're huffing it from the previous racetrack to the next one. Now, it's safe to assume that this is totally legal in the Mario Kart continent. I mean, the whole island is centered around racing economy, so it'd be weird if it wasn't. But hypothetically, if these racers were really not obeying the law driving track to track, what kind of punishment would they be facing? Well, in a single Grand Prix, this transitionary event happens 3 times, meaning in each event the racers are catching 6 points to their license. So just after 2 full events, they're already within that 3-month suspension time frame. And if the racers were to do every cup, including spoilers I won't mention for those who haven't finished the game, this comes out to be 24 points. Congratulations! You not only won the trophy, but a suspension on your license for a full year! Hopefully you've been paying attention to the stops on the Rosalina bus, because public transit is the only way you're exploring this world in the near future. Thank you for watching. You know the whole YouTube spiel, so I won't bore you with it. Instead, I wanted to talk about the channel's future content. So with the Switch 2 out, I have a series of topics lined up you should expect to be coming down the pipeline very soon. But I'd love to hear what games across all consoles and genres you think I should cover. I really appreciate all the love I've gotten on the videos so far, and can't wait to show you what else I got in store. But for now, I'll see you in the next episode of Crystal Crown.